Hello. Sorry, I'm so excited for the start of this video. I haven't even set up the recording of the screen capture, which is going to be important. So I've made an executive decision here, one that I feel like you should be aware of. That executive decision is that I am going to talk about all non-CONCACAF qualifying in this video that I have not already covered, and then I'm going to talk about CONCACAF qualifying because it in itself is going to be a separate video. It's beyond insane, but we're going to look at clips. You're going to learn everything that happened and why so many different dramatic things were going down in Africa, in Asia, and in Europe. And the reason I can do 3 of these is because Africa and Asia only had one match each that needed to be played. It was in Africa the playoff final, and in Asia the playoff final. We'll start with Africa. Now, these are playoffs to get to the Intercontinental Playoff. Right? This is not for a direct ticket to the World Cup. And in Africa in particular, qualifying is, in my opinion, pretty savage in that you basically go into a group, and if you don't win that group, you have a 1 in 9 chance of even getting to the Intercontinental Playoff, right? If you finish second in your group, only 4 of the 9 second-place teams even qualify for the playoff, and then you have to win that playoff to go to the Intercontinental Playoff. It is brutal, right? If you finish second, it's almost like fool's gold. You're surely not going to be the one team that gets all the way to the playoff, and you're certainly not going to be fucking Nigeria, right? Because Nigeria was the luckiest team in World Cup qualifying in this cycle. I have no issue saying that. It is 100% true. Nigeria needed Eritrea to drop out of qualifying, which meant the results against the worst teams in your group were not counted in the second place table. I'm not making that up, by the way. I can pull up the second place table right now. And that is what saved Nigeria. Quite literally saved Nigeria. Because if you go all the way to the bottom here, look at this. They tied on points with Niger and Burkina Faso for the last spot in the playoff. They also tied with Cameroon. Cameroon had a bit of a better goal difference. You know what none of these teams did? Failed to beat the team that was worst in their group. That's what Nigeria did. Burkina Faso would have had 6 more points here. Niger was in the group with Eritrea, so they didn't get a chance to play them, but it's fair to assume Niger would have beaten Eritrea both times, considering Eritrea it was afraid their entire team was going to defect if they left their country, which, fair play, right? Cameroon, I don't remember who their last place team was. It was probably like Mauritius, who they managed to beat both times that they played them. Nigeria drew Zimbabwe twice. Now, Zimbabwe's a bit of a surprise last place team, but seriously, Nigeria won half their matches. They had 2 draws. Even with those draws thrown out, Nigeria still only won 4 of the 8 matches that they played at this particular, clip of not having all 10 matches count, but only 8 of them. So Nigeria, at this revelation that the last place matches would not count, then managed to go out on the final day and beat Benin 4-0. Remember, if Benin had won that match, they actually would have gone to the World Cup. That feels like such a long time ago. That 4-0 win was exactly enough to put Nigeria into the playoffs. So I've always felt terrible for Burkina Faso. But at the end of the day, right, Nigeria did, in the kind of surprising, convoluted way the rules end up working out, do just enough to get itself into the playoff. And not only did they get there, they played against Gabon in the first round, who obviously were the top place playoff team. And they beat Gabon 4-1. Granted, it went to extra time. It was 1-1. They went out and beat Gabon 4-1 with 3 extra time goals to send themselves to the playoff final. And then there was DR Congo, who beat Cameroon, and that's what set up our playoff final. The winner between DR Congo and Nigeria in a one-off match played in Morocco. There's no host nation for this, right? They're just playing neutral site in Morocco. The winner of that match goes to the Intercontinental Playoff. And of course, once you get to that playoff, there are going to be 6 teams for just 2 spots. So you're far from, it's not even just a matchup against one other team here. You have to be a high enough world ranking to be a seeded team. You get a bye for the first round, which either of these teams actually, it turns out, would have been a seeded team to get a bye from the first round. But you're still not safe, is the point that I'm making. And Nigeria opened the scoring in the 3rd minute, at which point you would have been thinking that I can't believe they've gotten away with it. I cannot believe Nigeria's gotten away with it, that they've somehow flubbed their way into the playoff and they are doing exactly enough just to keep themselves alive at every point, where you've got a team in DR Congo that played very well, obviously, in their qualifying group, was able to knock Cameroon out of the World Cup, and their reward was Nigeria in the playoff final. right? A team that has not been to the World Cup in over 50 years. The last time they went, they were called Zaire. Okay, DR Congo, not even on the radar for this, but they are absolutely good enough to make it. And to be perfectly honest, they bossed this match. If you go back and watch, you're probably not going to watch the whole match on film, but if you go back and watch a nice extended highlights, you'll see that the vast majority of them are for DR Congo. They were the better team in this game. They got a goal in the 32nd minute, and they spent most of the second half hanging out in the Nigerian half. Right, extra time's always extra time, and that brings us to a nightmare of a penalty shootout, where Nigeria, well, first of all, shout out, because they did the thing. Noah out of Armenia's goalkeeper, Timothy Fayulu, was subbed in to be the penalty goalkeeper for DR Congo, who then promptly forced 2 consecutive misses to start the shootout, which gave DR Congo the lead until Axel Twansebe missed his penalty to tie things up. At which point, the next 2 were converted for Nigeria, and in an effort for survival, DR Congo converted their next 2 penalties. This penalty was taken where if it had not gone in, Nigeria would have headed to the playoff. And that brings us to the first clip that I have to show you today, which is the saved penalty. And this was excellent goalkeeping. Excellent goalkeeping by the DR Congo sub-keeper. This 26-year-old guy, Timothy Fayulu, who I believe saved at least 2 of these. He might have saved all 3, but I feel like one might have hit the post or something. But he was on it. Even the ones he wasn't saving, he was near, and that always sends a message to the other team. And then you get your first of many magic moments that we are going to see as part of this, which is, and shout out to this guy, by the way, a bottle was thrown on the field that landed between him and the goal, Chancellor Mbemba, the guy taking this kick. And he just powered right through it.
The man who almost scored a winner in this final steps up and scores! And the
DR Congo going to the Intercontinental Playoff. The scenes, man. The scenes in Congo. Look at this. You can hear the crowd. This is in Goma, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Just a group of people running towards whoever's holding the camera. DR Congo flags waving. Honestly, my favorite part about World Cup qualifying is watching these videos, dude. It's watching these videos. I mean, DR Congo is a nation that has gone through, for people from most places, a truly unimaginable amount of hard times, civil wars. There's a part of the country that is completely ungoverned in the east. Right? This is a country that just doesn't have a lot of good things going for it. Right? I hate being patronizing because people that live in the DR Congo are the same as people that live anywhere else, right? They're just people, they're trying to hang out with their friends, get something to eat, have a decent job, right? As somebody that gets to travel the world a lot, that's basically what everybody wants to do around the world. So I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm not trying to pass pity on to them or anything. I'm just saying, look, it's pretty awesome for the DR Congo to be in the news for a good thing. It's one of those countries that could really use people celebrating in the streets, maybe a little more than in some other countries, because they don't get as much positive news, as much happiness from their identity, from their country. They're kind of beaten down for it, look down on it for it. Or, people look down on them for being the DR Congo. Well, guess what? DR Congo just did something Cameroon and Nigeria couldn't do, which is get to the Intercontinental Playoff. And I'll be damned if they're probably not the most talented team there. So all those celebrations. There was a little bit of nonsense going on outside of this. I'm probably going to make a separate video on it. But there was accusations of witchcraft from the coach of Nigeria, which is a pretty dumb excuse if you ask me. I'm going to get on to the next qualifying stuff, but there's videos of him like attempting to potentially attack the bench because he thought that somebody from DR Congo was engaged in witchcraft. And if that doesn't get you engaged in World Cup qualifying or just international play in Africa, I don't know what will, quite frankly. I don't know what will. The next match was the singular match in Asia. So you have DR Congo that has won their match to get to the playoff. Well, now we've got a showdown between Iraq and the United Arab Emirates. Iraq 1-1 in the UAE, which means this match in Basra in Iraq is going to decide everything. Somebody's going to win this match. The first match was a 1-1 dead rubber, and that winner is going to go to the Intercontinental Playoff. And in the second half, it looked like it was going to be the UAE. One of their naturalized players, Kyle Lucas, scored in the 52nd minute, But then Meme scored a towering header in the 66th minute on kind of a deep cross, just came flying in there. And that tied things up. Basra's going crazy. And then all of a sudden, there's a penalty. It's a deserved penalty. Here was the call. You see the ball comes flying in. It is then headed towards the goal and kind of swatted down by the UAE player here. I don't know what he's thinking. You probably want to let that one ride out. But he decides to swat it away, and it takes, 5 minutes for the VAR review and to get the whole penalty set up. And what you have essentially by the end of that entire process is a penalty for a spot in the playoff. It's one of those situations where there is no time left in this match outside of the shot. It is a penalty at home in a football-mad country in Iraq that has not been to the World Cup in 40 years to send them to the playoff. At which level, depending on what happens later in the day with CONCACAF, Iraq could actually be one of the 2 seeded teams in the Intercontinental Playoff, which would be, that's basically you play one match. If you go win that one match, you're going to the World Cup for Iraq. This is the penalty.
أمير ولا خالد أمير أسد الرافدين لبلاد النهرين وحضارات آلاف
In Iraq, the people going absolutely nuts in Basra. And the call's great. I don't want to get DMCA'd, but it keeps going on and on. He's like, for the people in Baghdad, for the people in Mosul. Like, you can tell what he's saying, even though it's in Arabic. It's a fantastic moment for Iraq. Absolutely fantastic moment for Iraq. And I got videos from the celebration as well. Here's a police officer in Iraq working as a traffic cop with the Iraqi flag, just waving people around. People obviously honking. The celebration is on. Iraq has the opportunity to go to a World Cup for the first time in 40 years, going to the Intercontinental Playoff. So you got DR Congo and Iraq at the Intercontinental Playoff, both trying to end these incredibly long World Cup droughts, more than a generation in many ways, that they're trying to overcome here. So great drama in conclusion to both Africa and Asian World Cup qualifying. Tremendous drama in both of those matchups. And may I just say, further proof that international football is elite and absolutely fantastic. But now we take a step into Europe, which, because of the way European qualifying was set up, there wasn't as much final day drama. We're going to get that in March with the European playoff, but all of that was settled. We'll do this group by group because there's a lot of different days that have kind of happened in here. We'll start with Group A. Germany needed to avoid any sort of disappointment in order to actually clinch a World Cup spot. They did that. They won at Luxembourg, which set up a showdown with Slovakia on the final day. Northern Ireland had the opportunity to try and knock Slovakia out. Northern Ireland's actually already in the playoff because they won their Nations League group, but they lost to Slovakia 1-0 in the first match. They turned around and beat Luxembourg for a nice 9-point finish and for a little momentum into the playoff. For Slovakia, they had to finish second in this group to get to the playoff, which they did, thanks to that win against Northern Ireland. But let's say their match against Germany, where if Slovakia had won, they actually could have gone to the World Cup. Didn't go quite well enough for them because they lost 6-0. In Group B, we got hit with some crazy surprises. Slovenia lost to Kosovo, and that was the sorting hat match here. That put Kosovo on 10 points, and that put Slovenia on 3. That was really the big match here. Like, Kosovo is going to the playoffs. Slovenia officially out of the World Cup. I don't know what Kosovo's cooking here. They've kind of come out of nowhere. Sweden, unbelievably disappointing if you didn't even see them at the bottom there, but they are going to the playoff. They're one of the 4 teams that won their Nations League group that didn't finish top 2. They didn't even get close, to be honest. And then Kosovo actually drew Switzerland 1-1. Kosovo was the home team in that final match, but they're dangerous. Switzerland managed to clinch. They avoided catastrophe by beating Sweden in the second-to-last match. But hell, Switzerland going to the World Cup, Kosovo looks like they might be able to do some damage in the playoff. I don't know. I wouldn't want to play that team. Then there's Group C. Don't worry. I have it. Okay? I have it. Group C was a mess. I think I ran through this before, but basically Scotland went to Greece and lost. Greece was already out. Denmark then drew Belarus. And this was such an important result. Belarus scored 2 goals in 3 minutes in the second half. Denmark came back and scored a second. But this is literally at home in Copenhagen against fucking Belarus, who did not have anything in this entire window. They went out and drew Greece 0-0 in the final match in a complete dead rubber match. They had lost their first 4 matches with a minus 13 goal difference. They go to Denmark. There isn't a chance in hell here. Scotland's thinking if they lose to Greece, there's no way they're going to catch Denmark, because Denmark would then be on 13 points. Scotland would be on 10, and the goal difference would have been really significant, to the point that Denmark would have needed to lose by like 5 goals in Scotland to lose their spot, which was just not going to happen. Denmark bottled this with the draw against Belarus, because now the final day, Denmark's got to go to Scotland. And if for some reason you haven't seen it, it was one of the most epic World Cup qualifying matches you ever did see, because Scotland opened it in the 3rd minute with just the goal. I don't know where it was. This is the goal here for old Scott McNuggets, Scotty McTominay. So this is off a bad turnover by Denmark.
They are. Danes have contrived to give it away again. It is Gannon Doak with the tricks and McTominay!
Holy Moses! In the 3rd minute. The 3rd minute of a must-win match to go to the World Cup, and Scotland hasn't been in 28 years. 1998, the last time Scotland was at a World Cup. And now all of a sudden they're playing a match that they need to win. You score that in the 3rd minute, but then Højlund scores a penalty. There's a red for elbowing, or it's a holding yellow. I mean, it wasn't the, you can't say that it was a bad call, but it's definitely the type of play that maybe you could have let go just because of the moment. Then they score a goal off a corner with Shankland. You're thinking it's over. They're up a man and a goal here. Then Denmark scores. Patrick Dorgu, 81st minute, ball bouncing around in the box, comes to Dorgu. He just passes it into the corner. It's a beautiful goal. A draw, by the way, obviously good enough to send Denmark straight to the World Cup. And then this just magic couple of moments in football history occurs that everybody, quite frankly, has been reliving ever since. It's the type of moment and the type of goal that your entire life is leading to. I said at the time that it happened that Kieran Tierney's entire life had been leading to this moment and this goal. And he cashed it in.
Ferguson's header given away, but it breaks to Tierney!
I'm sorry, international football with stakes might just be the peak of the sport. With the stakes of being on the world stage, making the World Cup, this type of international football, it might just be the peak of the entire sport. It might be the peak of freaking humanity. I mean, the crowd pop on that, the energy, the enthusiasm. And this is happening all over the place. It's happening on the streets of DR Congo and Iraq. It's happening in Ireland and Scotland. It's happening in Norway because they ended their drought. Like these moments, these magic moments, they're just happening all over the place. And the equal heartbreak on the opposite end of the scale for teams like Hungary and Denmark that think they're there. And then they're just not. And then it's just over. Kieran Tierney, I mean, that's a gorgeous goal. The guy that's been so plagued by injuries, whose career's kind of fallen apart a little bit. He moved to Arsenal. He was the second coming for Scotland, pardon me. And then I think he's back in Scotland, right? But the point is, I don't even really know. Right? Kieran Tierney kind of faded off the map a little bit, but he was that dude, and his whole career was leading to a moment where he would score a goal with 3 minutes left to play to send Scotland to the World Cup. They scored another one, right? Absolutely insane La Bamba from just the parking lot, but I'm assuming you've seen that as well. The celebrations were wild in Scotland. Here's the goal. I might as well show you.
He's going to shoot.
I mean, what a way to send yourself to the World Cup. A little halfway line David Beckham special for absolutely no reason, 2 minutes past the stoppage time. Like, I mean, come on. Absolutely ridiculous. It's absurd. There's no reason in the world he should have taken that shot, but he did anyways. Final match day was also dramatic between Ukraine and Iceland. This is a very overlooked one, right? If Iceland had a win or a draw, they would have gone to the European playoff. But Ukraine in the 83rd minute scored a goal, and then obviously scored another one very late as Iceland was pushing for the equalizer that would have sent them to the playoff. And Iceland, the former smallest nation ever to go to a World Cup, has been ousted by Ukraine, who obviously are in the middle of an active war. So it's awesome to see them doing well and making it to the playoff again. Amazing. Group E, Turkey and Spain, they'd already kind of separated themselves going into this round, but shout out to Turkey for actually drawing Spain in the final match. They're looking good. You already know what happened with Ireland. I made an entire separate video about it. They're going to the playoff. Hungary is out, which is just remarkable. Group G was very boring. It come down to what could have been maybe something for Poland if they'd found a way to beat the Netherlands, but the goal difference was so extreme. You kind of already knew where both these teams were going to be. Shout out to Malta. Just, you don't get to say that sentence a lot, but like seriously, Malta won 1-0 in Finland on Teemu Pukki's final match. Very embarrassing for Finland, but a great win for Malta, their only win in qualifying. And then we get to Group H, where we were served drama. Absolute meaty drama. Romania went out and lost to Bosnia and Herzegovina 3-1, which set up a final day showdown between Bosnia and Herzegovina and Austria. This was the same as the Scotland-Denmark match, except Austria was the home team and all they needed was a win or a draw. Bosnia and Herzegovina needed to go into Austria and win to send itself to the World Cup. So naturally, Bosnia and Herzegovina showed up and scored in the 12th minute. Then, in the 43rd minute, Austria scored. I'm going to maybe make a separate video about this because it angers me so much. That goal was called back for a foul in the buildup. This was in Austria's own half here. This was in Austria's old half. They called that a foul in the buildup, like a minute before the goal was scored. Nonsense. Absurd. Infuriating. But fortunately for Austria, they got their goal in the second half, 77th minute for my boy Grigoric. The celebrations wild in Vienna. Austria, despite being a successful team that's been regularly at Euros, has not been to the World Cup since 1998. They are going with this goal. Bosnia and Herzegovina headed to the playoff. Then there's this. I don't even know what to do with this information. Italy sucks. They scrapped their way to 6 wins in this group, but it was kind of uncomfortable. They they nearly didn't beat Moldova. They had that ridiculous comeback against Israel, and Norway just killed them. I mean, I know the whole joke was Italy needs to win by 9 goals, but Norway, on average, right, beat Italy by 3 goals each time. The aggregate score was 7-1, Norway over Italy. It wasn't close. Italy wasn't in the same neighborhood. They were dominated. Like, Norway's going to its first World Cup since 1998, and I don't think any team earned it more. I mean, they went toe-to-toe with Italy, and they stood 10 toes down and knocked them out. Straight uppercut to the jaw. Down on the mat. I mean, Norway's flying into the World Cup with 37 goals in 8 matches played. That's 16 more than any other team in this group. Look out for them, okay? Belgium took care of business after a weird draw against Kazakhstan. They blew out Liechtenstein 7-0 to clinch their automatic spot in the World Cup. Wales and North Macedonia had a weird, it looked like it should be important on the table type match, but it wasn't because both of them were already, as both teams that had won their Nations League group, they were already guaranteed a spot in the playoff. The real question was, where were you going to be seated? Are you going to get a home match in the semifinal? And that was determined by who was going to get into second here. And Wales took care of that. 7-1. Harry Wilson bagged a hat trick, and Wales beat a notoriously difficult to beat North Macedonia team 7-1. When was the last time you saw Wales hang 7 on anybody? I feel like they aren't hanging 7 on the Luxembourgs and the Moldovas of the world. They hung 7 on a team that still has hopes of getting to the World Cup. Legitimate hopes. This is I mean, I don't know what happened here. I didn't watch this match. It's a ridiculous score that is backed up by the statistics of the game. Wales has apparently found something. They've unlocked something. They beat Liechtenstein on the road 1-0 before this, by the way. I have no idea what just happened. If I'm North Macedonian, I'm very sad all of a sudden because North Macedonia is now, a 4th pot team going into the playoff off a 6-goal loss, whatever the hell that was. Albania beat Andorra in order to clinch up their playoff spot. Unbelievably disappointing result for Serbia. They are the highest ranked team in the world that is already officially out of World Cup qualifying, which is not the mantle that you want to hold. Czech Republic obviously lost to the Faroe Islands 2-1 in their second to last match, which was kind of nuts, but they were able to cement their playoff spot with a 6-0 win over Gibraltar. Huge shout out to the Faroe Islands, who managed 4 wins, including one over Czechia, obviously, in 8 matches. So the Faroese, only 55,000 people there. If we're looking for a nation that's ever going to be able to break the record that has just been set in CONCACAF for the smallest nation to make a World Cup, maybe the Faroe Islands are the team that could do it. They've at least shown the ability to be able to get to that point. But that is the end of European qualification. Your playoff is 16 teams: Czech Republic, Albania, Wales and North Macedonia, Italy, nice, Bosnia and Herzegovina and Romania. They're a Nations League group winner, so they're into pot 4. Poland, Ireland, Turkey, Ukraine, Denmark, Kosovo and Sweden, Slovakia, and Northern Ireland. 16 teams for 4 spots. That's all going to happen in March. They're sorted into 4 pots based off of world ranking, with the Nations League teams automatically filling out pot 4 as teams that didn't finish top 2 in their group. Got all that? Cool. We'll be back with the rest of this in March. But remember, new CONCACAF videos coming separately because I needed space to talk about that. It was that crazy.